What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Sunday, August 17th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now, it is 1700 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have Hurricane Erin about to potentially make landfall somewhere along the southeastern U.S. coast. It's going to come really close to North and South Carolina. So I want to just show you guys some of the latest warnings and advisories and cones for this storm. So what you're looking at here is the current radar and satellite of Hurricane Erin. Check this storm out. Absolutely insane. It is currently just to the north of Dominican Republic and Haiti, and it currently has maximum sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. It is expected to turn into a major hurricane very, very soon. This would be the first hurricane and major hurricane of the 2025 hurricane season for the Atlantic Basin, okay? And it's going to come really close to the Carolinas. So here we have the latest advisory from the National Weather Service. Heavy rainfall will continue into Monday across Puerto Rico, but is expected to diminish over the Virgin Islands later today. Locally, considerable flash and urban flooding along with landslides or mudslides are possible. Tropical storm conditions are expected in the Turks and Caicos Islands and are possible in the southeast Bahamas tonight and Monday. Gusts to tropical storm force are possible in Erin's outer bands in portions of Puerto Rico today and the central Bahamas on Monday and Tuesday. Erin is expected to produce life-threatening surf and rip currents along the beaches of the Bahamas and much of the east coast of the U.S., Bermuda, and Atlantic Canada during the next several days. Interests along the North Carolina Outer Banks and Bermuda should monitor the progress of Erin, as there is a risk of strong winds associated with the outer bands during the middle part of the week. Okay, so lots of rain and strong winds, and it's going to turn into a major hurricane, guys. Okay, here's the latest forecast cone, and as of right now, they have it curving out into the Atlantic somewhere off the coast of North Carolina, but anywhere along the eastern United States, there is a risk of rip currents and heavy surf and choppy seas. Potentially, it could even hit the Carolinas. It's still too early to say where this is going to go exactly, but you can see they have it turning into a major hurricane. So I wanted to update you guys on the situation with Trump and Putin and their meeting in Alaska and the results of that. So Axios reported that Putin told Trump that he was willing to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine, but he mentioned China as one of the possible guarantors. European leaders are expected to join the Trump-Zelensky talks on Monday alongside Zelensky. And Zelensky said Russia is preparing for new assaults. We are recording the movement and preparation of Russian troops. We predict that the Russian army may try to increase pressure and strikes against Ukrainian positions in the coming days in order to create more favorable political circumstances for talks with global actors. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NY Prepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. Okay, so Ukraine is preparing for possible Russian attacks, and Trump told European leaders that peace could come quickly if Zelensky ceded all of the Donbass to Russia, including areas not under Russian control. In return, Putin offered a ceasefire along current lines and a written pledge not to attack Ukraine or Europe again. And an official briefed on the Trump-Zelensky phone call yesterday told the New York Times that Zelensky will seek clarity on Trump's peace proposal during his visit on Monday to the White House. And Trump personally delivered a letter to Putin during the Alaska summit written by the First Lady Melania. And in the letter, Melania asked Putin to save the innocence of children. She said that Putin had the power to save the innocence of children. I'm assuming she's talking about Ukrainian children. And she basically, in a nicely way, said, listen, Putin, you have the power to stop the killing and traumatization of children in Ukraine. That's basically, in a nutshell, what that letter was about. And Reuters is reporting that Zelensky refused to give up Donbass in talks with Trump and European leaders. And Axios is reporting that in talks with Trump, Putin requested that the U.S. recognize occupied Ukrainian regions, including with Crimea, as part of Russia. Axios reported that the U.S. side got the impression that Putin was open to negotiations over the Sumy and Kharkiv region. And Putin proposed to freeze the front in Zaporizhia and Kherson in exchange for a Ukrainian withdrawal from Donetsk. Okay, so that's not really a good deal for Ukraine. Okay, if Ukraine gives Putin the Donbass, but in the meantime, he's going to freeze the front lines. Basically, Ukraine gets nothing other than Putin's going to freeze the front lines. And Putin agreed with Trump that Ukraine should have a strong security guarantee after a settlement, but not under NATO. And Putin said the Russian Federation respects the position of the United States and also would like to resolve the crisis in Ukraine by peaceful means. He also said the conversation with Trump was frank and substantive. It brings us closer to the right decisions. And Putin demanded guarantees that Russian would once be recognized as an official language in Ukraine, along with security assurances for Russian Orthodox churches. And Trump told European leaders that he is more willing than before for the U.S. to provide direct security guarantees to Ukraine. The European leaders that will be visiting the White House tomorrow with Zelensky include the President of Finland, Alexander Stubb, the NATO leader, Mark Rutte, Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, EU President Ursula von der Leyen, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. So that's the list so far. We don't know if there's going to be any more, but that is basically some of the biggest, powers in Europe that are going to be in D.C. tomorrow, okay? And this is going to be a historic meeting, all right? And European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said Ukraine must be able to maintain its territorial integrity. She also said tomorrow is the hour when Ukraine decides its fate. Zelensky said territorial issues can only be discussed by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia during a trilateral meeting with the U.S. Okay, so Zelensky wants a trilateral meeting with Putin and Trump, and that would be the only time that he would discuss territorial issues. And Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, said Trump and Putin agreed in Alaska on strong security guarantees for Ukraine. He said on CNN that Trump and Putin agreed on robust security guarantees such as Article 5 protection from the United States. Okay, so basically this would mean that if Russia invaded Ukraine again, the U.S. would send troops into Ukraine. Okay. Witkoff said on CNN that Russia would add in their legislation guarantees not to go after more land in Ukraine or European countries. So basically, part of the deal would be Ukraine gets Article 5 protection from the U.S., and Russia has to enshrine in their legislation that they will not invade European countries or go after Ukraine again or try to take more territory in Ukraine. And Witkoff said that Moscow made concessions regarding 5 regions in Ukraine. Interesting. He also said tomorrow the issue of territories will be discussed with Zelensky. He also said that the issue of land swaps will be discussed on Monday. It was not discussed at the meeting with Putin. He also said the concessions that Russia has agreed to make is not gobbling up the entirety of Ukraine. He also said there is no need for a ceasefire in Ukraine now, as a permanent peace agreement is already being discussed. And Zelensky said that we need security that will work in practice, like Article 5 of NATO. He also said the Constitution of Ukraine makes it impossible to give up territory or trade land. Okay, so it doesn't sound like Zelensky's too interested in this. Neither are the Europeans. And Macron said Europeans will ask Trump to what extent he will join security guarantees for Ukraine. Macron also said Putin does not want peace. Macron also said the only ones who can talk about Ukrainian territories are the Ukrainian authorities. So the Europeans want to know to what extent is the U.S. going to provide security? Okay, how far will they go with the security? Is it just going to be like token troops that are sent into Ukraine that are not going to really do anything? And it's more of just like a token, security guarantee that's not actually, truly a security guarantee, just more for show, okay, just to try to get Putin to agree and Zelensky to agree to a deal. So the Europeans want to find out exactly, specifically, how far will the U.S. military go in providing security guarantees. And Trump will first hold a one-on-one with Zelensky, followed by a joint working dinner with European leaders. Zelensky also said that we are considering joining the EU as part of security guarantees. And the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the only way to reach an agreement is when each side gets something and each side gives something. That's why Zelensky is coming tomorrow. And European officials and Trump discussed possible Article 5 style security guarantees for Ukraine outside of NATO as part of a potential peace deal. And all of the large European powers released a joint statement saying no limitations should be placed on Ukraine's military or on its cooperation with third-party countries. We are ready to work with President Trump and President Zelensky towards a trilateral summit with European support. Our support to Ukraine will continue. And Macron said that we warn of Russia's tendency to not fulfill its obligations regarding Ukraine. And the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said Trump's efforts bring us closer than ever to the end of the war in Ukraine. Marco Rubio said that the Trump-Putin-Alaska summit was very productive. And Putin issued a decree letting foreign investors regain stakes in the Sakhalin-1 oil and gas field, potentially reopening the door for Exxon, which exited in 2022 after sanctions. And Ukraine's new Flamingo missile has a range of up to 3,000 kilometers. Wow, that is absolutely insane. So I'm going to be monitoring the situation with Ukraine and updating you guys accordingly. My apologies for not posting a lot the last 2 to 3 weeks. Summer is winding down and I have a lot of things I have to do. But I will increase the number of video updates and live streams in the coming days and weeks. So no, I have not quit YouTube. I just have a lot of things going on in my personal life outside of social media, outside of my business here, that I have to take care of. And the Republican governors of West Virginia, South Carolina, and Ohio are sending hundreds of National Guard troops to D.C. at the Trump administration's request. West Virginia will send up to 400 troops, South Carolina 200, and Ohio 150. And the National Guard troops in Washington, who were initially deployed without weapons, are now preparing to be armed. Okay, so last week we saw the pictures of them walking around with just batons, by all the major landmarks. Well, now we're hearing that they're going to start to be armed. Okay, so they're slowly easing into this to reduce the shock factor by the public. Okay, but this was predicted by the Illuminati card game from the mid-90s. Okay, there's some Illuminati cards in that card game that show martial law in front of the White House with National Guardsmen standing in front of the White House fence. Okay, so this is very, very serious, guys. It's almost like maybe they know something is about to happen and they're pre-positioning the National Guard in the Capitol just in case something were to happen. They must have either intelligence or the Illuminati is planning some kind of big event that's going to take place at the U.S. Capitol. And Israel says it will relocate Gaza residents from combat zones to the southern part of Gaza starting Sunday. And the Israeli Chief of Staff has officially today approved the plan to fully occupy Gaza City. Okay, so Israel will begin their full-scale occupation of Gaza in the coming days. They're going to start with Gaza City, and then they're probably going to move their way south, just like during the initial invasion. That's what they did. They're going to probably do it that way as well for the full occupation and potentially annexation, or they're going to turn it into like a neutral security zone under Israeli control. But we'll have to monitor that because the Muslim fundamentalists are not going to like that at all. So we could see an uptick in terror attacks after that, or potentially attacks on Israel from Iran or the Houthis. And overnight last night, the Israeli Navy struck Sana'a, Yemen, hitting the Haziz power plant. And the Serbian president promised that the authorities in Serbia would take decisive actions regarding the protests and riots in Serbia within the next couple of days. So there has been some serious rioting going on in Serbia. People are basically wanting a change of government there. They're protesting and rioting against the ruling party. It looks like potentially another color revolution is underway. So we'll have to see what happens. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I wanted to come on here and update you guys on the situation with Trump and Putin and where things stand there, and the latest on Israel. I will be monitoring Hurricane Erin and providing regular updates. Check me out on Patreon. The link to my Patreon is down in the description below. You can also become a silver member here on YouTube, but I would prefer you go to Patreon. And I will be posting regular text updates over there on Hurricane Erin and anything else, okay? And I will be providing bulleted text updates of the latest headlines, usually every 1 to 2 days. I've been doing that so far the last few weeks, and people seem to like it. If you don't have time to watch my full videos, you can at least get access to the short text updates, which are sometimes easier for me to provide rather than posting a video. So I might be back later on tonight with another update or live stream. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 P's: prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. You can get 3 months of emergency food, 2,000 calories a day, for just $500. That's $200 off their normal price with free shipping included. This food has a shelf life of 25 years, and it's a variety of different types of food. So if you use the link preparewithnyprepper.com, you can save $200 on their 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. That's preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video.